What a well-behaved audience. So welcome to this is the fourth Republican debate, I think. Is that right? No, but right. Congratulate all of you for not watching that at the moment. So welcome and thank you all for joining us this evening here at Portland State University to welcome Van Jones and to hear what he has to say about environmental justice. I'm John Fink, and I'm here with two hats. One is I'm the Vice President for Research and Strategic Partnerships at PSU, and in that role I work with the faculty primarily to strengthen our stature as a research university and also to be a valued partner for our strategic partners throughout the region and throughout the nation. I'm also here as the interim director of the Institute for Sustainable Solutions, which is the host for this evening. So the Institute works with partners across the campus to infuse social justice, environmental science, and access to a vibrant future for everybody involved with the PSU experience. The staff at ISS believes that everyone at this university, the staff, students, and faculty, has the capacity to contribute to a more sustainable society, one that does not put future generations at risk, which I think is part of what we'll hear about this evening. We also take seriously our role as an institution in service to our community, which is why I'm pleased to see a lot of people here who don't normally come to our campus that often, and we really welcome you and hope you'll come back for more activities. PSU is actively working to make this whole region better prepared for a changing climate and a rapidly growing population, while also trying to protect the quality of life that attracted many of us to live here. We have researchers at the university who are working closely with the city and with other partners in nonprofits to figure out how to improve our air quality, bolster the local food system, and other ways of preparing for a changing climate. So I've got my crib notes here. So we have classes at PSU scattered throughout the community, and they're working in neighborhoods to improve the livability by tackling issues like transportation access, leadership capacity, and economic development strategies that don't leave our neighbors behind. So it's our hope that everyone here will be touched in some way by the work that the Institute is doing and the university is doing in partnership with the city and the region. So tonight we're here also in the midst of PSU's Portland State of Mind celebration. This is a kind of 10-day house party on campus with lots of events. We're also here to mark Campus Sustainability Day and to talk about equity in the green economy with Van Jones. We are also kicking off the Social Sustainability Month, which is 4 weeks of activities and events planned by students, for students, with a focus on examining privilege, giving voice to a wide range of communities, and building an inclusive sustainability movement. Now I'd like to bring up Cynthia Gomez, PSU's Director of Cultural Resource Centers and a key partner in our planning for tonight's event, to introduce Van Jones. Cynthia is a leader in Portland's Latino community and has been named a recipient of a prestigious Governor's Gold Award, the Al and Pat Reeser Civic Leadership Award, which she'll be receiving from Governor Kate Brown in December. Please join me in welcoming Cynthia.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Portland State University. Buenas tardes, good afternoon. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge the people whose land we are standing on today, the Multnomah and Clackamas peoples. It is important to acknowledge the ancestors of this place and to recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices they were forced to make. In remembering the Multnomah and Clackamas communities, we honor their memory, their lives, and their descendants. We also remember that we are guests and stewards of this land and must do our best to never forget its original inhabitants. My name is Cynthia Gomez. I'm a first-generation Mexican-American, dual citizen of Mexico and the United States, and Sinaloense, whose family hails from the great state of Sinaloa, Mexico. I have the privilege of serving as Portland State University's Director of Cultural Resource Centers, as well as affiliated faculty in University Studies Senior Capstone Program. I'm humbled and honored to be here with you today to introduce one of my greatest inspirations, Van Jones. CNN political contributor Van Jones is the president and co-founder of Rebuild the Dream, a platform for bottom-up, people-powered innovations to help fix the U.S. economy. A Yale-educated attorney, Van Jones has written 2 New York Times bestsellers, The Green Collar Economy and Rebuild the Dream. In 2009, he worked as the Green Jobs Advisor to the Obama administration. Van Jones's excellent work has been acknowledged by a number of prestigious institutions and publications. His awards and honors include being named to Rolling Stone's 12 Leaders Who Get Things Done, pretty cool, Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People in the World, Fast Company's 12 Most Creative Minds on the Earth, and Essence Magazine's 25 Most Inspiring African Americans. He also served as Distinguished Visiting Professor at Princeton University and as a Senior Fellow at the Center for American Progress and American Progress Action Fund. Van Jones is the founder of Green for All, a national organization working to get green jobs to disadvantaged communities. He was the main advocate for the Green Jobs Act, and under the Obama administration, it has resulted in $500 million nationally for green job training. While best known as an innovator in the environmental movement, Van Jones has been hard at work in social justice for nearly 2 decades, fashioning solutions to some of urban America's toughest problems. He is the co-founder of 2 social justice organizations, the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights and Color for Change. Van Jones is all about solutions. His ideas to address environmental justice issues have been instrumental in my own efforts to raise the voice of marginalized and systematically disenfranchised communities. Please join me in welcoming Van Jones to the stage.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me an excuse not to be at the debate. As you know, I work for CNN, so I got a chance to cover our version of the Republican debate, our version of the Democratic debate. Okay, I'll tell you one quick story. All right, so at our debate, it was at the Reagan Library, and they had the big plane up there, like the Air Force One, but it's off the ceiling. So in order for the debate to happen, right next to the plane, they had to build this massive platform way off the ground for the Republican candidates. And so they're up there, and the thing is going on for like 3 hours, and there's no restroom up there. So somebody finally realizes that these are not the youngest guys in the history of the world. And so they've got to get these guys down off of this massive platform and to the restroom. And I had already come down because I was getting ready to file my report about how how interesting and as I'm going into the restroom, I didn't quite follow the instructions. So we're not supposed to be in there with the candidates. But I'm going in the restroom, and out of the restroom comes Marco Rubio. And, when you're up on those stages, you have to look super tough and strong, whatever. But he comes out of the restroom looking like this. Just looking for any human affirmation, just any at all. And I'm a dad. I've got soccer kids, and he looked just like my kids, and just spontaneously I say, "You're killing him! You're killing him!" And he goes, "Oh, thank you." Anyway, so I don't know why I told you guys that, but just we're human, right? So I say that, and I'm thinking about you, actually. I'm quite sure all those guys on that stage tonight, had one of those human moments. And we sometimes put these people up on big pedestals and throw rocks at them on either side of the aisle, or whichever hero we want to deify and then demonize and then deify. But at the end of the day, I'm a lot more concerned about what regular folks like us are doing. And I think the problem right now isn't with the leaders. When you have leaders this bad, at some point you got to start questioning the followers. What are we doing? And I'm starting to think that any conversation I want to have about issues, whether it's environmental justice or technology inclusion or criminal justice, I want to have in the context of just who we are as people. And so I want to talk about fate, your fate, versus your destiny. I want to talk about fate, your fate, versus your destiny. I want to talk about the facts versus the truth, because they're not the same. And I also want to talk about your ego versus your soul. So, fate versus destiny, facts versus truth, and ego versus soul. You have a fate. I have a fate. Your fate is something you just can't do anything about. It's just you. It's just a part of you. You just came in. Like, for instance, just so we're not too abstract here. No matter how hard I work, no matter how much I try, I will never, ever, ever be a 22-year-old good-looking Asian guy. Right? I mean, that's just not my fate. I can work at it, I can struggle against it, but at the end of the day, it's not my fate to be a good-looking 22-year-old Asian guy. I just can't pull that off. All of us have that pure fact. You're born. So far, every human that was born at some point died. So you're likely to die. That's fate. You may be in a particular gender or sexuality or race. You may have been born in a particular place. And there may be things about that that are very, very difficult. And often what we spend our time doing is raging at our fate. Why don't I have more of this? Why wasn't I born more of that? The reality is, if you just deal with your fate, you will spend a lot of time watching television and eating bad food. You're just going to be stuck, depressed. That's where you're going to be. What I want to call your attention to is your destiny, which is different. Your destiny is that thing inside you that is a call to greatness, despite your fate, despite all the things that should make it impossible for you to have your dreams come true. There's still something inside you that bugs you. It's a call to greatness inside of you. And don't feel special, by the way. Everything has that same call. A little acorn has a call to greatness inside of it. The little tiny acorn has a call to greatness to be what? What? A huge oak tree. Look, I'm actually not on television. We're here. So you can, we can actually talk. Yeah, a huge oak tree. A little tiny acorn has a destiny to be a huge, magnificent, amazing oak tree. Now, does every acorn become an oak tree? No. Some of them get stepped on by third graders. That happened to me. Some of them get eaten by squirrels. But every acorn has that call to greatness. A little fuzzy caterpillar has a call to greatness, to go through some trials and tribulations and emerge as a creature of light that can soar on the currents, that can pollinate fields, that can bring life and joy and light to the world. A little fuzzy caterpillar has that call to greatness, and so do you. And here's how you know you have that call to greatness inside of you. Look at your journals. Look at your diary 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Look at the emails you've been sending to your friends for years about what you really wish you were doing and about what you're gonna do at some point. That little thing in you, that's your destiny calling to you, bothering you, bugging you. And sometimes you'll have enough courage to speak it out loud to somebody. And 9 times out of 10, they don't even look up from their thumbs. And you just sort of shrink back away. I want to suggest that it's not these people on stage tonight at the Republican debate who matter the most over this next decade or so. It's the millions of us who already know what we need to be doing. It's the millions of us that already know, if you found out that you had 1 year left to live, exactly what you would do, exactly what you would write, exactly what you would create, exactly who you'd reach out to, exactly what you'd say. But we act like we're going to be here forever, and we let our destiny down. So the opportunity we have here tonight is to speak as if the dream that brought you in this door actually matters. That who you were born to be actually matters. That the fact that however many trillions of years old the universe is, there's never ever been a you before, and there's never going to be a you again, and you have something to do here. And many of you have known this for a very long time in this room. Many of you, since you were children, since you were little bitty children, have known there was something special you were supposed to do. Many of you, in fact, had a very difficult time dealing with your peers, dealing with your cousins, because they were so busy breaking stuff and being ridiculous and watching horror movies, and you couldn't even watch a horror movie. You were already so sensitive as a little kid, you couldn't even take a scary movie. You already had something inside of you that was too delicate and too precious for even the rough and tumble of a lot of childhood. Many of you in this room, you've always known it. And what I want to suggest is, we need you now. I have had a remarkable life. I have been a grassroots outsider. I have been a White House insider. I've had a show in the media. I've been a target of the media. I've taught at Princeton. I've taught in a prison. I've had a 360 experience of what it means to be in American life. And most places that I've gone where you're dealing with the people who have alleged power, people who have a position, people who have authority, are usually much, 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 much less wise than the ordinary folks who assume that somebody's flying the damn plane. Most of the wisdom is not in the cockpit. Most of the wisdom is in the plane. And so that brings me to this question around facts versus truth. The reason that you don't go out and fulfill your destiny is because you're focused on the facts. Like the fact that you're broke, or scared you're going to be broke, or like the fact that you don't know everything you need to know, or everybody needs to know, or all these different considerations. But there's a truth about who you are that doesn't refer to the facts. And there's a truth about what we have to do and what we can do as a human society that also isn't bound by the facts. Let me lay out the facts for humanity, and then let me lay out the truth. Here are the facts. We're screwed. I'll say it again. Here are the facts. We're screwed. We have mass extinction of species and mass incarceration. We are literally cooking this planet with greenhouse gases, creating climate instability that's hard to even get your brain wrapped around. See, I remember when the Weather Channel was boring. You remember that? Like you just cut on the Weather Channel, they just like tell you, well, it's going to be hot or it's going to be cold, or in Chicago it's going to be hot, and in Miami it's going to be cold, and they just go to the commercial and try to sell you Viagra or something. And it was a sleepy little channel. Now you cut on the Weather Channel, you might have to call a therapist afterwards. So that's all terrible. We have, in the United States alone, we have 25% of the greenhouse gases. So 25% of the gases up there cooking the planet came from our little country with 5% of the world's population. 5% of the world's population, 25% of the greenhouse gases. 5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's prisoners. 1 out of every 4 greenhouse gas molecules up there cooking the planet has an SUV, a cheeseburger, a flat screen TV, an American flag, right up there. You can see them. Came from the United States. And 1 out of every 4 people locked up anywhere in the world, behind bars, anywhere in the world, 1 out of 4, with their hands around a bar right now, shackled right now, 1 out of 4, locked up in your country. That's facts. And by the way, many of them locked up for nonviolent drug offenses. Poor, mostly people of color, locked up for drug offenses. Now, I don't want to shock anybody here, but we got some nonviolent drug offenders right up in this room. Don't raise your hand. We got some nonviolent drug offenders right on this campus. We got some nonviolent drug offenders in the faculty. But nobody goes to prison from here. You don't go to prison from here. You might go to rehab, but you don't go to the penitentiary. We know in this room full well that this war on drugs is not a war on everybody using drugs. We live in a country now where it's better to be rich and guilty than poor and innocent of whatever the crime. And so we sit with that. And that rests on your heart. The hypocrisy of that, living with that. under enslavement, when we were enslaved. It wasn't just the slaveholders and the enslaved. It was a whole society that had to live with that. And there would be court cases sometimes where an enslaved African would run away, and then someone would shoot that enslaved African, and then the enslaver would take the person who shot him to court, and there you would be on a jury having to determine whether or not the property that was taken, i.e. the enslaved African who was murdered, whether the property that was taken was done in a way that somebody had to pay somebody else money for it. You aren't even a slave owner, but you have to participate in a society that corrupt and horrible. Well, you have for-profit prisons right here in the United States now. For-profit prisons that are traded on the stock exchange. They make more money the more people are locked up. We're trafficking in human bodies again. We're trafficking in human bodies again, and there are more people of African descent locked up in prison today than were enslaved in the United States in 1850. That's the impact of mass incarceration, the racial impact of mass incarceration. That's the facts. So we have widening inequality, worsening climate instability, and widening racial gaps and pain and frustration. And I was on the ground for CNN in Ferguson. I was on the ground for CNN in Baltimore and in Charleston. And I can tell you that the facts, from the point of view of those young people who are out there, whether you agree with whether this cop should have been indicted or not, but that young people, African-American people, standing out there in the streets of America, saying, my life matters. My life matters. Black lives matter. And having people go, well, you know, shouldn't you actually be saying that all lives matter? And the alienation of those young people. It's like, you don't understand what it means for me to be out here even saying this. I feel that worthless. I feel that thrown away. And then you want to get a debate with me about semantics, and you don't come to my aid because I didn't say it the way you wanted me to say it. I was standing out there, and this is important for you. I was standing out there on the street in Ferguson when they announced that they weren't going to charge the officer, and you can agree or disagree with that decision. But I was looking in the eyes of those young people, 400, 500, 600 young people of color who had been marching nonviolently for months in the heat. There was an ordinance that said they couldn't stand still, so they couldn't have a rally. They had to keep marching and marching and marching. If they stopped, they'd be arrested. And they had hoped that maybe somehow their pain would be recognized somehow, and that recognition would take the form of this officer being indicted. Well, the officer, as we know, wasn't. But I watched those young people, and I looked in their eyes. And there was something I'd never seen before. As they were waiting for that verdict, and they were looking up at speakers just like these, just looking, waiting. There was a little light, faint. If you can imagine a house, empty, dark, on a dark street at midnight, but somewhere in the basement, somebody had lit a candle in the basement of a dark house on a dark street. Just that much light in the eyes of those young people. And then when the decision was announced, I watched that little light of hope go out. Just Nobody cares about me. My life doesn't mean nothing. Shoot me, lay me on the ground like a dog for 6 or 7 hours. Nobody cares. Now, most of those kids went home with their heads down crying. They didn't show that. They hugged each other, they sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and most of them went home. A few stayed behind and did some terrible stuff. And we talked only about those that got mad. We didn't talk about those who left so sad they couldn't even stay in public. Those are facts. And that's happening across the country. And a lot of stuff that goes down with these young people isn't caught on video. But there they are. And the majority of people in this country under the age, I believe, of 12 are non-white, or is it 17? Are non-white, some crazy number. And the number scares me. I know white folk are like, But it's some huge number of people in our society under the age of, say, 20 today are non-white. We say, oh, well, in 30 years we'll be a country that's non-white. If you're in kindergarten, your country's already non-white. And what are we doing to bring people in, to bring people together? Not enough. Those are the facts. That's not the truth. It's not the truth about who we are. It's not the truth about what's possible. It's not the truth about what we know we can do. First of all, on the ecological side, we already know that powering a society based on death is stupid. Now, I get accused on a certain television station, which I'm not going to mention, but I will say this about a certain television station. If your news outlet is named after a furry predatory mammal, that can't be trusted to guard the hen house or anything else, if you named your news outlet after a furry predatory mammal, excuse me if I don't believe everything that you say about anything. But I get accused by a certain unnamed furry mammal network of some word I had to look up. It's called hyperbole. Hyperbole. Is that it? No? No? Public schools? Just joking. Hyperbole? Is that it? I get accused by the furry mammal predatory people of engaging in hyperbole in front of the youth of America. And there he goes again, Van Jones. There he goes again. Saying that America is run based on death. My God. Shall lock this guy up. It's true. What is oil? What is coal? Do we call them fossil fuels because they're living? Or do we call them fossil fuels because they're dead? Oil is a substance that has been dead for 60 million years. Coal has been dead for 100 million years. Somebody got a brainstorm and said, let's dig up all this dead stuff and burn it. in our engines and in our power plants without ceremony, what could possibly go wrong with this strategy? So we drill big holes in the ground and we pull out death. Then we burn to death, and then we act shocked when we get death in the lungs of our children in the form of asthma, or when we get death on the seas in the form of oil spills, or when we get death from the skies in the form of climate disruption. Indigenous people could have told you from the beginning that if you burn death, you will reap death. Now, the truth is that even George W. Bush's Department of Energy admitted we have enough wind energy in the plain states alone to run the whole country. What does that mean? That means you don't have to rely on death. You can power the whole country with living things. The living sun. A Saudi Arabia of energy, a Saudi Arabia's worth of energy hits the earth every hour from the living sun. See, I love and respect our energy workers. I'm not mad at our coal miners. They risk their lives every day for us. I'm mad at the coal mining companies, but the miners, they're heroes. They risk their lives, their lungs, their limbs every day to keep the lights turned on. I'm not mad at them. They're drilling those holes to help us, they believe. But the reality is America's future is not down those holes. If you want to see the future, look up. Look up at the living sun and the energy source there. That's the truth. That's the true source of energy for the human future. Look up. Look at the winds blowing across our plain states. Enough to power the whole country just in our plain states. And there's wind energy off our coastlines as well. And the great thing about it, if you go out there and you put a platform and you have wind turbines off our coastline, if something happens, there's a storm, and all the wind turbines get knocked over, you don't have a massive wind slick that comes and messes up the coastline, you know? There's no wind slick that comes. There's a smarter way to do stuff. If you want to see the future, look up. I've been to 1 million solar farms. I've never seen a sun spill. There's a smarter way to do stuff. That's the truth. If you want to see the future, don't look down those holes. Look up at the living sun, the living wind. Look in the eyes of living workers who are standing idle, sitting idle in our Rust Belt, who could be making wind turbines, who could be making solar panels, who could be making hybrid cars, who are sitting idle. If you want to see the future, look in the eyes of our young people in our urban environments, who instead of standing in front of people's houses with nothing to do, could be on top of those houses, putting up solar panels, weatherizing homes, cutting grandmama's energy bills, helping to retire some of these coal-fired power plants. If you want to see the future, look up into the living future. That's the truth. You can make a lot of change if you face the facts, but you stand in the truth. That's your destiny. That's what you're called to do, is to face the facts. Don't run from the facts. Don't be one of these la-la people. There's a lot of bad stuff out here. You know, and I'm a good spiritual person, but I don't believe that Ohm's going to do it. We got to put some feet up under these prayers. We got to do some hard work. But if you stand in the truth, while you do that work, it's amazing what can happen. We in California were able to make a miracle that we're now trying to tell the world about. In California, we stood up to the polluters. In California, a woman named Vienne Trong, who now runs Green for All, along with Jeremy Hayes this year. By the way, give Jeremy Hayes a big round of applause from Green for All. Stand up and wave your hands around so they can see you. Stand up and wave your hand around. That's Jeremy Hayes. Give him a round of applause. That's one of my best friends in the world. We have a little organization called Green for All. a young woman named Vian Trong made a miracle happen in California. You can make a miracle happen here. Vian Trong was born in a refugee camp. Vian Trong was the youngest of 11 children. Vian Trong's family brought her to the United States as a little tiny baby. And they stepped up from a refugee camp. She's Vietnamese, Chinese Vietnamese. They stepped up from almost dying in a refugee camp all the way up to being farm workers, working in the fields, 12, 16 hours a day. And then they stepped up from that to being sweatshop workers. But that little Vian Trong, the baby of the family, they somehow were able to send her to law school. And that little girl, seeing what her family had gone through and so many other poor people had gone through, when she got that law degree, rather than her running off to a law firm and making a bunch of money and donating to a cause, she donated her life to this cause. And because she was the youngest of 11, she had a particular gift for coalition building. Matter of survival, trying to figure out whose interests are whose and listening really well and trying to put together the right teams to be able to just survive. And she used those coalition building skills that so many women have in our movement to devastating effect. Vian Trong pulled together in California by listening. It's not just being a powerful speaker. Sometimes you gotta be a powerful listener. And women of color know that better than anybody else. And she got people who wouldn't speak to each other to listen to her because she listened to them. And she went all around the state. Nobody knew her name. And she got business people, and she got environmentalists, and she got black racial justice advocates, and she got elected officials, and she got Republicans. She got people, and she got them all to one table. And she said to them, look, why don't we pass a cap and trade bill here in California, even though they won't do it in DC? And why don't we do it in a way that everybody can benefit? And lo and behold, that bill passed, and a quarter out of every dollar raised from polluters now in California, a quarter, 25% out of every dollar taken out of the pockets of big polluters in California now, is invested directly in poor communities. Directly in poor communities. Those same communities that are overly incarcerated, those same communities that are over-policed and under-invested in when it comes to education, those same communities that can never find a penny, nickel, or dime for any positive cause, and yet they can spend millions of dollars on police and prisons for those children. Those same communities that nobody could figure out an answer for. Vian Trong figured out, well, there is some money somewhere. It's in the pockets of these big polluters. Why don't we take the money out of their pockets and invest it in these communities? And since that passed, $1 billion has moved from polluters' pockets into communities. And what are they getting? They're getting mass transit, free bus passes for mamas and grandmamas and granddaddies and students who want to be able to not have to buy an old clunker car. They want to be able to ride the bus, but sometimes they don't have enough money even for that. And they've been able to increase and improve mass transit using money taken from polluters. That's the truth. They've been able to get low-cost and free solar panels put up in poor communities. Now, you think about that. This is how you know we're not using our brains. Here's how you know we're not using our hearts. Here's how you know we're not acting right. Don't talk about the Republicans or the Democrats. Look at us. Look at our environmental movement. Where do we put the solar panels? On rich folks' houses. Now, I don't know about Oregon, but in California, rich people live in the hills where it's shady. and cool. Poor people live in the flatlands where it's hot and sunny. A rational movement would say, why are we putting the solar panels on the shady houses and leaving the poor folks' houses with black tar roofs, where the poor folks' houses get hotter and hotter? They got to crank up the AC, which puts more strain on the power grid, which creates more pollution, which creates more asthma. What are we doing? Why don't we put the solar panels on poor folks' houses? And then rather than grandmama having to crank up the AC and pay the power company, she can have her house be a little power generator, sell that power to the grid. Now the power company's paying her. Her bill went down, her income went up, her property value went up, and she's got more resources to take care of her family. Maybe taking care of her family, some of the young folks in the community will get more help and support, be less vulnerable to the predations of the prison system. See, there's a way to solve these problems, but we have to work together, and we have to come from a deeper place, that destiny place, that unreasonable place in you that wants something beautiful to happen. It's not going to settle just for a grant or a little old bill every 4 years so you can say you did something, or just be able to post really smart stuff on your Facebook page. Send. It's tough being in this movement. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Send. Struggles hard. Now, there's a part of you that knows that's a sellout. Where did $1 billion go? Urban forestry, planting trees in communities, which actually, yeah, you can clap for that. Trees don't plant themselves. That's jobs, too, you see. And it turns out that the more trees in a community, the crime rate goes down, stress levels go down, just with trees. Just with trees. Is that social justice? Is that environmentalism? See these silly divisions? Well, I don't work on the environment, Van. I just work on social justice issues. Okay. Well, Van, I really appreciate everything you're doing, for those urban kids, but I'm really focused on the environment. See how crazy that sounds? It's like, who do you love more, your kids or your grandkids? If you love your kids, you got to start developing the economy. You need a lot of jobs. Let's build factories. Let's, develop everything. Bring in the strip malls. You love your kids, right? You want to have a salary for your kids. Let's do economic development. We need economic development for jobs. We got to feed our kids. But then that's great. But then your grandkids have a dead planet. So then they go the other extreme. Oh, well, I love our grandkids. We're so concerned about future generations. We love the future generations. So we're all just going to stand very still. Gotta preserve the planet. Then your kids starve, right? Do you see how stupid this is? Who do you love, your kids or your grandkids? That's what they want you to divide over. Economic development or environmental preservation. Do you want to, and then they check, Van, you want to hug a tree. Well, I want to hug a child. You have two arms, hug both. You see? You can hug both. What are you talking about? Why are we so stupid? What's wrong with us? You see what I'm saying? It's not them, it's us. It's our movement, all siloed and divided up. Because we're not standing in the truth. The truth. is that disposability itself is a lie. We don't have throwaway species. We don't have throwaway resources, and we don't have throwaway neighborhoods or children either. It's all precious. It's all precious. And if we stand in that truth, then we can move the facts out the way. And that's what you're called on. That's what you're being called up to. That's what's bothering you. And that's why all these pixels and all the binge watching on the Netflix and this is not working for you. Because you're called to something greater than that. And you have opportunities right here in Oregon where you only have 3 million people. I mean, that's like a neighborhood in New York. To have similar kinds of laws. Why not? You've got some ballot measures coming up. I'm not supposed to talk about politics, but it's just, you can Google this. You got ballot measures coming up. We can double the so-called RPS from 25% to 50%, the renewable portfolio standards. In other words, you can go to the ballot and create a situation where the state has to double the amount of energy efficiency and the number of solar panels and wind and all these great things. And that doubles jobs. So that's how you get the working folks in. That's how you get the people of color in. You said, you want more work? Be a part of the green movement. We're going to give you more work, more wealth, and better health. Because we got to repower a whole country with clean energy. We have to redesign a whole food system so it's poison-free. You know, right now they tell you they have organic food and they have food they make with pesticide. Catch that. You have organic food and food made with pesticide. Now, do we have any English majors here? Any English majors at all? Do we have anybody that speaks English? A few? Okay, so words that end in side, are they usually good words or bad words? Stay with me now. Hama, sua, pesta, that seems bad to me. Hyperbole. Now he's saying the food's going to kill us. Yes, the food is going to kill us because it's made with side. So you have to create an entirely different food system with local organic food and rooftop gardening and urban farming and all of that. That's work, wealth, and health. That's jobs. That's contracts. That's entrepreneurial opportunities. Oh, he's confusing me. Is that social justice now or in the environment? I'm confused. I'm confused. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? It's all sacred. The solutions are the same. You can just use different words to describe the problem. The solutions are the same. And that's why it's important that we deal with you. Because you know all this. How many conferences have you gone to now? How many conferences? How many keynote speeches? How many books are on your bookshelf and in your Kindle? And you still have that same calling you haven't chosen to answer yet. And you want to be mad at some politician you never met. And I'll tell you why. Ego versus soul. Ego versus soul. Not making this up. Jeremy, didn't we just have this conversation with that kid? Had a young student come up to us. You could tell this young guy was brilliant. I mean, just, first of all, his clothes look kind of funny. That's a clear sign he was not wasting any time on that part. He was focused on his studies, and I applaud that. So, this brilliant, brilliant guy. I was in a classroom and got a chance to talk to him. When you guys have to do this, you give presentations and some people are paying attention, you can't help but you keep coming back to that person. They're looking at you, looking at them. And they're looking at you, looking at them, you're looking at them, looking at you, looking at them. And you say, this kid must be brilliant because he's listening to me and he likes what I'm saying, so. And afterwards, he asked this question. And the question was, well, you mentioned the importance of media in your conversations, and I'm actually a media maker. I'm a videographer. And I have all this great footage that I shot in India, but I'm afraid to put it up on the internet. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, maybe he's a part of some oppressed ethnic group in India, and if he puts it up there, then the terrorists will come and, kill his village, and, so I'm getting myself prepared to, counsel him, try to help him through this ethical dilemma of, on the one hand, exposing the pain of his people, on the other hand, risking genocide. And he says, because if I put it up and it doesn't look very professional, it'll be up there and it might hurt my career. Don't be mad at him. That's you. That's you. Some beautiful dream, some amazing gift, some extraordinary capacity or insight or empathy or understanding or opportunity or network and an ability to move the whole world. But what are they going to say? And what if it doesn't turn out right? And maybe somebody's going to laugh. Or maybe this person won't understand. You can see it with everybody else. Why doesn't Hillary just be authentic in herself and blah, 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 blah. That's us. Here's your dilemma, given your destiny. You wouldn't be in here if there weren't some destiny pulling you into the room. I'm a very compelling speaker. There's way better stuff to do tonight. Trust me. Your dilemma is your ego. Sometimes you decide to play small because your ego can't take the criticism, and that doesn't work. So then you decide to play big, and your ego gets huge, huge, huge. New pronunciation now, thanks to Donald Trump. Huge. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this and blah, blah, blah. And you get some little tiny success and you just get inflated. And you just become obnoxious. your Facebook page just becomes unbearable. Whatever little tiny thing you got right is just, oh, you're there, you're bragging, and you're whatever, and people just hate you. And at some point, somebody finally pulls a rug out from under you, and then you say, oh, well, I'll play small. I'm sorry. I'll play small. I learned my lesson. I'll play small. And then you're in that little cage. You finally just can't take it anymore. You go, oh, I'm big. No, I'm small. I'm big and better than you. I'm small. So which is it? Should you play big? Or should you play small? Should you play small and humble? Should you play big? Possibly arrogant, but maybe that's what's... Here's the answer, folks. Your ego should play small. With your ego, you should play small. You need an ego. Your ego should be like a small, compact tool or like a weapon, so you don't get pushed around. It's a good, strong sense of self-esteem, but not this big, bloated thing, right? You don't want a big ego or no ego. You want a strong ego, just a good, strong sense of self. It takes a while to develop that. But basically, with your ego, you play small, but with your soul, you play big. That's when change happens. When you play big with your soul, when you play big with that purpose inside of you, that joy inside of you, that belief that you have, that so much more is possible. That's what's been missing. Your soul, shining on the line, standing in the truth, facing the facts, but standing in the truth. Accepting that some things are fate. You don't get to live forever. You do have to make some choices in life. That's true. You have a fate, but you also have a destiny. And if you just deal with that, if you accept the notes from yourself for the past 2 years, 4 years, 7 years, since you were a child, about who you were born to be, if you accept that, if you then look right into the eyes of the facts, but stand in the truth that we can be so much more and can do so much better, and let your soul shine. When we next gather, my expectation is that I will be sitting in the audience, and many of you will be up here explaining to us how the miracle of who you are finally got a chance to shine. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was lovely. We have a gift for Van Jones. We have a Chief Joseph blanket that we're going to gift him here. So. Another round of applause for Van Jones. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, I will take 2 questions and then go, because somebody said they want a question. A question is short, and then I will go. And I feel very warm. Yes, you, sir. Very short. Gotcha. Okay, so Gotcha. Wonderful. Okay, so his question was, why does the media suck? Okay, who's got another? Anybody got another question? You, ma'am. Will I read it? I don't know. What is it?
It's a campaign movement we're doing. We'd like the CDC declare racism a national health crisis. And it's a very personal letter from somebody. And it's my acorn.
Okay.
And if there's soul and there's truth.
She wants me to read a personal letter. So we are going to take a chance here. It's a little bit too long. Okay, good. So exactly. So, but here's the nut of it, the guts of it. Is she wants the Center for Disease Control to look at the facts, to look at the evidence, and declare that racism and racial antipathy is actually a health issue, a mental health issue, and deal with it with the full force of that. So that's good. So look, the question was about the media, and here's what I'll say about that. This feels good. I don't know if I look good, but I sure feel good. My friend pointed out that the media sucks. Increasingly, we are the media. Increasingly, we are the media. And what I want everybody to take some responsibility for is that your most beautiful expression, your most powerful poem, your most impassioned plea straight to camera, the picture of your children doing something amazing, for all you know, could go viral tomorrow and change the world. See, it's not, I work for the mainstream media. I wish it were better in 1,000 ways. Wish it paid me more, for instance. So, but we're in a different age now. And you don't know. You have no idea when your flower is going to pop. I know. I mean, I had this kid that used to work for me. Well, she didn't work for me. She worked for a group that a coalition I was a part of anyway. She was a kid. She was just some random kid. I mean, I work with lots of kids. I remember her kind of. And I was part of this coalition, and she was very enthusiastic, and she had all these things to say, and I'm like, yeah, that's very, very nice. You know, go get us some coffee. I mean, I was ageist, adultist. This young woman, a few years later, in the heartbreak of the Trayvon, and the heartbreak of Ferguson, writes a tweet, one tweet, hashtag Black Lives Matter. One tweet. One tweet. African American, female, lesbian, working for an anti-poverty organization in Bayview Hunters Point, as marginal can be. And yet the only movement, organization that has been discussed at both the Republican and Democratic debates has been Black Lives Matter. And it started with one person saying, I'm not waiting for the news media. I'm not waiting for the New York Times. I'm not waiting for the furry mammals. I'm going to speak from my heart, and she changed the world, and you can too. Thank you very much.